Hello, my friends. So, this is the World Soul Card Contemplation reading from my Wing and Prayer series for June the 27th. World Soul Card. Soul cards by Deborah Koff Chapin that come with no instructions and no explanations, simply intuitive hits of what it means. So, this is the World Soul Card. Um, I want to say this card feels like, what do we carry? Are we carrying burdens on our shoulders? And are we carrying the burden of hate and fear and anger on our shoulders? Or are we carrying the burden of love and peace and compromise and compassion and charity on our shoulders? And they're both burdens, but it's so much easier to be angry and hateful and fearful than it is to be light and cheerful and blessing on our way. But the burden of the light and cheerful and blessing on our way is so much of a more powerful burden uh, to do, but it's so much of a more powerful burden in what it brings to us as the gift of carrying burdens. And that is that the light extends outward, and our goldenness extends outward, and our compassionate extends outward into the universe, and we feel ourselves and sense ourselves as more connected to the sacred and the divine in ourselves and in others and in the world in which we live. We can't live as victims all the time. We cannot live as victims all the time. We cannot carry victim state all the time. We cannot carry fear and anger and betrayal and guilt and shame all the time. We need to heal those things that we have hoarded to ourselves in order to identify ourselves. And to identify ourselves, we often have felt like we needed to be the victim to the world, and that gives us some line of power, some definition of power, some line of power, but also something that needs to be broken and scattered, because we are not just that defined thing. We are everything. And if we define ourselves as victims, then we become victims and only victims, and we'll always see through that lens. So we have to define ourselves as lovers. And we have to define ourselves as healers. And we have to define ourselves as flower carriers. And we carry the burden of flowers. We carry the burden of growth and peace and fruitfulness. We carry that burden. We know that that is where we need to go and what we need to do and how we're all going to get along and how we're all going to thrive on this world is if we see each other as carrying the burden of flowers and not the burden of war and not the burden of victim and not the burden of pain. We have to see the full person. We have to recognize the divinity in each person. And to carry the burden of flowers is a remarkable thing of beauty, a remarkable thing of teachers and teachings that will bring us ever deeper and ever closer to our spiritual nature, and also requires the place of presence, which will allow us to escape some of our already certain dogmas that exist in our head, belief systems that we've gotten from others, and we've gotten from society, and we've gotten from religion, and we've gotten from just our own day-to-day lives and looking out from our own little eyes, that we think we have to act certain ways and be certain things in order to be loved and honored and accepted into the world scene. But those limitations are also limitations that have kept us down and kept us from not being the most alive and the most healed and the most gracious and the most graceful and the most artistic and the most connected and compassionate people that we can be. So we have to carry the burden of flowers. May it be an easy carry for